Welcome in and good morning to another edition of Let's Bet It right here on Pickswise. You see what happens when I come back from vacation? I can't even get the words out. Jeez, I am Mark Zeno. We've got a great show for you today alongside Jared Smith. We will talk, obviously, a ton of Major League Baseball. Got some Wimbledon picks for you. And Jon Jansen is going to join us to go over all the shifting news in the NFL, NBA, and a whole lot more. And Jared, welcome in, brother. Great to see you again. I'm back from vacation, ready and rare to go.
Hanging out in the Big Apple for a few days, and then I noticed the tan, the olive glaze, not Alex glaze, but the olive glaze. It looking very refreshed and recharged, but expecting a big day.
Yes, this is the beautiful Florida sun that worked on me for 5 days. So, and to be honest with you, man, like it was weird because I didn't look at a bet. I didn't do anything for 5 days straight, but sit on the beach and chill. It was a nice little recharge. So. But I am glad to be back. It was kind of funny going through the motions last night of trying to re-energize myself to do normal handicapping again. It's like, wow, it was a nice little break. But I'm glad we're back. Don't forget to subscribe to our Pickswise YouTube channel. Let us know in the comments what your picks are or whatever questions you have. Of course, download the Pickswise app, available on Apple Store and Google Play. All right, let's get going here on this Thursday. And, of course, all the news starts in the NFL with Baker Mayfield being traded yesterday afternoon from the Cleveland Browns to the Carolina Panthers, and odds shifting and odds moving. We'll get to that in a moment, Jared. But what do you make of the move, and does it really improve the Carolina Panthers?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you the number one overall pick a few years ago, I definitely think they're a better team than they were yesterday, for sure. But how much better and how much movement are we going to see in the futures market? I think that's a more tame question. If you want to get into the specifics, which I know we will, I'll be honest, I don't really think it moves the needle for me a whole lot. Like, again, Carolina's better. Obviously, you add a guy like Baker, you're better. But I don't think they're better, so much better to where it changes your opinion on how they fit into the NFC South and, of course, the NFC picture. But obviously, anytime you get a guy like Baker, certainly going to make your team marginally better. And honestly, the biggest win are the schedule makers. Did they know Panthers, Browns week? What, like, to me, that because it's not a matchup that you see very often, Carolina, Cleveland. It's a random matchup. And to have it in week one, it's like they knew. But I think that's the biggest takeaway for me. Week one will certainly be a lot more interesting between those two teams.
Now, to say the least, and look, more than anything, to me, this is a raging sign that the Carolina Panthers front office literally has no idea what they're doing. And Matt Rule was given way too much. And I was dead wrong on Rule. I thought he was going to transform that franchise. I thought he was going to do everything that they needed to do to get back to being a prominent team. And he has swung and missed on several occasions here to start his head coaching career in the NFL. That said, you can't switch quarterbacks at this rate and expect to be anything good. You're hoping to catch lightning in a bottle then. At this point,
yes, like every year there's a new guy under center.
It's been a terrible run for Carolina. So that's what it screams to me. Now, as far as the odds for the Panthers, the odds to win the Super Bowl still went down actually to 28-1 to win. I'm sorry, that was the odds for the Panthers rather is 130-1. NFC odds 60-1. NFC South 10-1, and their win total still at 6.5. I really don't think this changes anything for them. Again, Baker is talented, but he doesn't elevate, right? And I use that term a lot. He doesn't make people around him better.
Yeah, totally agree. I checked in with our buddies at the Westgate yesterday, and jokingly, no move, no Super Bowl move, no conference move, slight move in the division from 22 to 20 to 1. Now, again, are they good enough to overtake New Orleans or Tampa? Absolutely not. I mean, if anyone's going to win that division besides Tampa, it's going to be New Orleans. Now, of course, injuries and other things could change that. Jameis Winston, of course, coming off a major injury. We'll see how he holds up. And Tom Brady's like 78 years old. So we'll see. Eventually, you would think Father Time will catch up to Tom. But I just don't see anyone besides one of those two teams. I mean, Atlanta, I mean, you know better than me. You can completely forget about them winning the division. So I don't see it being a 3-horse race in the South, even though this move was made to elevate Carolina to that position.
I don't even think it's a 2-horse race in the South.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 1-horse race with an
everybody behind.
New Orleans if Tampa Bay slips. Like, I think it's Tampa Bay's division to lose. And if Tampa Bay slips, I don't see anyone besides New Orleans winning it just because of the pedigree involved with that Saints team. So, yeah, it doesn't change the way I view anything in the NFL futures market besides week 1 drama, which, again, the schedule makers win once again.
Now, look, could you argue from a win total standpoint that Carolina, which, again, is playing the NFC South has a favorable division matchup this year, and favorable schedules. Right.
Because they're playing the Browns week 1. So I'll be honest, that's kind of a tough division. Ravens,
but their NFC matchup, their NFC division is the East this year.
That's a little more favorable.
So they get a couple of softer games on the schedule. I guess what I'm saying is, could they get past 6.5 wins? I think there might be an argument for that. I think there might be, depending on how it stacks up, and I haven't studied the Panthers' schedule closely, but clearly I would feel better at 6.5 wins with Baker Mayfield than I would with Sam Darnold at this point, given what I've seen from two guys who had taken 2 picks apart, by the way, in the same draft. That said, that may be the only way I would go in as far as the futures market is concerned with Baker Mayfield. Now, what does this mean for the Browns? Their win total is still off the board. I said this for months, and I'll continue to say it. I am not backing the Browns in any market whatsoever, period. I have no idea what the situation is going to look like. The idea that anybody would place a bet on this right now, it's like you're burning money, if you ask me. So I don't look at this as a favorable situation. It's Jacoby Brissett or bust, and if that's what you're going to put your season on and put your wager on, then knock yourself out. I'm not doing it.
I think the irony is, too, you could still get – see, I immediately thought this move – because you're right. If there is one future to consider for Carolina that this move impacts in a positive way, in a way that you think that you might win a bet and not just get some movement in your favor, it is the win total. But the win total is still plus money to the over at FanDuel. Now, granted, I don't know what it was yesterday before the move was made. There might have been some, odds movement, but there couldn't have been that much odds movement because it's plus 105. I mean, what could it have been before? I can get confirmation on that later. But again, I don't see it. Like, I don't see Baker. It's July 7th? He has 2 months to get up to speed on a brand new offense with a brand new set of receivers. Even if he does outgun Sam Darnold, if you want to even call it that, for that job, you would imagine it's going to take some time for him to play his best football if there is some good football in front of him. So I think the win total is a stay away. And I think you're 100% right on Cleveland. I mean, you're crazy if you have ideas to bet the Browns right now in any market with all the uncertainty there. There's just not enough information for us to make a wager on Cleveland.
The other biggest win here, and if you would have put odds on what Cleveland would have gotten in return, I would have said nothing. This was a huge steal for Cleveland that they actually got a pick in return for Baker Mayfield, because everybody was willing to wait this out. Anybody who was interested said just cut him because it was coming. But, you could tell the Panthers sort of panicked a little bit and said, look, if we're going to do this, we need to get him in now because training camp's going to start here in a couple of weeks. And if they wait until, the day before the season to cut him when they do the final rosters, we're going to be up a creek and it's not going to do us any good. So they panicked, and Cleveland gets a pick in return, which, again, I would have had, plus 260 on a pick coming in return. I didn't think it was ever going to happen. So there you go. Anyway, all right, let's shift gears here now to all the news in the NBA as the offseason rages on there. Welcome in Jon Jansen as he joins the show here. And let me make sure we get Jon on here as he comes in. Jon, welcome, brother. Great to have you with us this morning.
Yeah, great to be here. And it's weird. Usually I'm the one asking Jared questions whenever I'm talking with him. So it's going to be weird hearing him ask me some.
Oh, how the tables have turned, my friend. Get ready for the gauntlet.
Well, I was not too hard.
The
thing is, you're going to ask me about like trying to figure out the Sixers, which I don't even know if Daryl Morey can. So this is going to
I was going to say that's a loaded question, right, Mark?
Absolutely. Look, but the idea of Joel Embiid and KD is certainly appetizing from a entertainment standpoint, to say the least. But the question is, do they have one of the better packages to offer, and can they pull this thing off, do you think, Jon?
Well, they at least have a young player that they're willing to let go of in this trade. Look, if you ask Sixers fans, they don't want to let go of Tyrese Maxey, no matter the circumstance. But look, I think Daryl Morey would be more than willing to move on from a guy like Tyrese Maxey to get Kevin Durant. There's not many young guys that I think the league would want to. I've heard maybe Scotty Barnes from Toronto would be available. Some of these guys under 25 that are getting better. But I don't think you're going to find a guard that can score as well as Tyrese Maxey that's going to be involved in the deal. So at least you have that. Other than that, though, they don't have much. And I'm sure a team is going to be willing to put up more than the Sixers are capable of doing. They don't have a lot of draft picks to do so as well because they've traded a bunch away. So while they have that kind of cornerstone young player that they can include in a deal, I don't think there's much else to entice, I think, the Nets to want to move Kevin Durant to Philly.
Yeah, I'm looking at the draft picks now. The Nets pick, the pick next year goes to the Nets. They do have a first-round pick in 2024 that is available for trade, but after that, it's kind of slim pickings. There's another one in 2026 that they have. So, I would say they have less draft capital than other teams, but they don't have zero draft capital.
Right.
And they definitely have, I think, the best package of young players that can be offered. But the real question is which ones are available, if any. And which ones are just going to be used as trade bait to maybe drive up the price for other teams to get Kevin Durant out of the Eastern Conference. And that could be another interesting one. Maybe they don't trade him to the Sixers, but in my eyes, it's a win for Philly if he goes to, let's say, Phoenix. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely would. If he's not coming to Philly, outside of the Eastern Conference would be absolutely fantastic. Because I think the Eastern Conference, the Sixers, I would say right now, maybe fourth or fifth. Can't really remember the Eastern Conference, but I know Boston's still pretty good. I know Milwaukee's still pretty good.
Boston, Miami, Brooklyn.
Miami, right. Miami's still pretty good. I know they lost PJ Tucker, cornerstone piece of that franchise, but right. I think they'll be okay if they got Jimmy Butler. So yeah, Miami should be great. Look, the Sixers are the fourth, fifth best team in the Eastern Conference, and they have a lot to prove to obviously, be there with the Bostons and Milwaukee. So at least if you take one team out of the equation, that obviously would be helpful for the Sixers. But Kevin Durant would be great in Philadelphia. I just don't know. Look, they already made a trade too, Brooklyn and the Sixers. So I don't know if they'd be able to get another one done.
I'll ask you too, in reference to the Sixers and their futures. The one thing I would stay away from more than anything right now, obviously, is Joel Embiid MVP. He's got a great shot to win it. NBA voters are so provincial. They do this whole thing where it's he's already got one, so I'm not going to vote for him next time. Of course, Nikola Jokic should have broke that trend, but nonetheless, he would be a favorite to win it. But if they get Durant, I would not put a future on Joel Embiid as the MVP. There's going to be some cannibalization there.
Yeah, obviously, if that were to happen, I would not do it. And also, even if that doesn't happen and the Sixers kind of stand where they are now, it seems like that MVP window for Joel Embiid is already passed in a weird way, because usually it's you win a couple of MVPs and then all of a sudden they kind of, all right, you've won it, you can go away. But Joel Embiid, I don't think he's ever going to play better than he has in the past 2 years. Not to say that he won't be great. He'll still be one of the best players in the NBA. He'll be fantastic, maybe even better if you look at maybe some of the underlying numbers or just on the court. But his overall numbers that the voters are going to look at are probably not going to be as good as they have been the past couple of years, because the Sixers team, I think, is going to be better than they have been last year in particular. And also, they're probably not going to be playing Embiid that much. If they are a roster that has gotten better, playing Embiid close to 70 games or as many games they want to try, that's just not going to be possible. So I think they're going to start resting him a little bit more, because obviously late postseason runs, He hasn't been healthy. And also, he's had a 2-year window in which he's, I think, played his best basketball, at least when it comes to stats-wise. And I don't think that the voters are going to want to kind of look at him as an MVP anymore. That 2-year window was pretty much it. Jokic dominated it, and now it's kind of on to the next thing, whoever the next thing is in the NBA. But it's kind of, to me, like it hasn't happened yet, so I don't think it ever will at this point.
Yeah, I mean, if he can't win it last year, when his numbers were better, the eye test was better, but the voters still favored the analytics and the efficiency that a guy like Jokic brings to the floor. And also, let's be honest, he's the favorite, basically. I mean, I know there's a couple guys that are near the top of the board. If you're betting a favorite at the top of any market 10 months before that market matures, you're asking for the line to move against you. And the odds of it moving in your favor anytime between now and, let's say, March are very slim. And I don't think it's a bet that I would make, and I wouldn't recommend betting.
That's one you would have to wait to see if the perspective changes on Joel Embiid. Like if the voters I've changed their mind and you're starting to hear a different tune, because it was starting to be that way in the first half of last year, but then immediately they went right back into the free throw thing started to come up, and his team's better than Nikola Jokic, and like all of that started to come. It's like, all right, well, he's just not going to win the award, and you kind of knew it as soon as after the All-Star break. You kind of knew it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. Let's switch gears into MLB, right, Mark? Go ahead.
Yep, absolutely. Go ahead, Jake. All right. So what kind of bets have you had the most success with this season? Look at your plays today. You're on one of my favorite teams to bet this year from a different perspective, but where are you finding the most level of success?
Yeah, for me, it's really simple. I know the strikeout market's good, but I have a tough time because the strikeout market, books will want to like overjuice things, really entice you to like take these bets. And sometimes it's just like, all right. And it's a number you have to take almost immediately when it comes out, or that thing's going to move automatically. And it's almost non-bettable. To me, I still like money lines. I've been going to run lines more often. I don't know if this is just I'm getting a sense of it, or this is actually factual, but it feels like these teams are really good at the top and really bad at the bottom. And we're seeing some, and starting pitching, it's not as good as it used to be. Jeff Passan even posted an article on ESPN of, we're kind of losing the art of the starting pitcher. There's only really a handful of these guys that we can rely on. So we're starting to see big time money lines. So it makes me want to go more into a run line, and I do have a run line for today. So I've been more willing to, I think, go with run lines than I have in the past, but I like money lines. And I know first fives are good because you're taking out the equation of the bullpen, but I kind of like all those factors. I'm taking all those percentages, all those stats, analytics, and putting it into a percentage of what I think this team's going to win, and putting it relative to what their money line is and their price. So I kind of treat it. It's the one thing I treat as a stock market. I don't usually do that often. I'm not a big stock market guy, but in Major League Baseball, if I see something maybe, priced a little bit differently than I thought, that's something I'm just going to bounce on. And obviously if it moves, even a few, I'll stay away from it. So it's something I treat that way, but over a long Major League Baseball season, I think it ends up being profitable if you're able to, obviously do all the work, do all the research, but kind of stay within what you kind of do. And I think money lines to me are still good in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, the bullpens scare the crap out of me, John. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. That's the one reason that I've stayed away from them. But I respect the money line grind, because I do think if you are able to stay consistent with your approach and find undervalued teams, the oddities and the randomness that occurs with bullpens in baseball these days do balance out over a 162 game season. So that being said, you're laying money with the Orioles today. Please explain yourself, sir.
I actually think they're a good baseball team. I know it sounds really, it sounds incredibly weird that Baltimore, not only am I laying a bit of juice with them, but also I'm saying that they are the better team than the Los Angeles Angels, but they are, and they're a home team. And Jordan Lyles, look, it's not great, but also the Angels on kind of short notice because Lorenzen's kind of dealing with an injury, and they're kind of moving things around in their starting rotation. Sealseth kind of comes in, and he really hasn't been pitching that well. Now, his xFIP is really good. I think it's just under a 4. So there's maybe a bit of positive regression in there. there, but the Angels don't hit. Like, I get Jordan Lyles isn't good, but he's at least better than Trevor Rogers. And the Angels were able to hit him a little bit, but I thought we're having a pretty tough time around Trevor Rogers as well. So this Angels lineup is not hitting well. Baltimore's been really good since the month of June. They've been a pretty much average Major League Baseball team when it comes to hitting. If you look at WOBA, runs created plus, they're right around the middle of the pack, which is pretty good. But their bullpen, 5th best ERA in Major League Baseball. And they're maybe going to have to go to their bullpen a little bit early, even though Lyles, I think in his last 4 or 5 starts have actually looked good and have given them enough, quality to end up, winning, even though it hasn't happened. But he's gone 6, 7 innings, giving up 2, 3 earned runs. So I think Lyles, to me, is somebody that I think can be reliable in this situation, especially against the Angels, who are just a bad lineup and a bad team at the moment, and also a bad bullpen. So I actually think this isn't actually a high enough number here for Baltimore. So I think minus 112, I got it out at Bet Parks. I'm actually okay with that, to be honest.
I mean, John, I am with you on backing the Baltimore Orioles. In fact, one of my plays, and I couldn't make it my play of the day because I just can't endorse paying 2-1 from a juice standpoint. But the Orioles plus 1.5 on the run line today is a fantastic bet. It's minus 205, and I don't suggest anybody do it. But that said, the Orioles, there is one team in Major League Baseball that is covering the run line over 60% of the time. That is the Baltimore Orioles. So, and they are going up against an Angels team that is in the bottom 6 in the league in their run line as far as coverage is concerned. At just, where are they? At only 45.8%. They're 38 and 45. That's 6th worst in Major League Baseball on the run line today. It's super juicy. You have to be willing to swallow the extra risk if it goes upside down and Lyles has a terrible start. He shouldn't. But like you said, the Orioles got enough bats. They're at home. It's a hitter's ballpark. I am comfortable with the Orioles today on the run line.
It's weird to say, I know.
What's the rest of your card looking like today, John?
I'm on some ugly today. I actually think the Miami Marlins plus 143. I just like the matchup. I just want to trust the numbers a little bit here. The Mets are really bad against left-handed pitching. In Miami, if you take a look at full season, so obviously don't know what the sample size has been like, let's say maybe the past 2 weeks or even the past month. But Miami's actually been pretty good against right-handed pitching. They're, I think, a top 10 team most of the way, if not a fringe top 10 team in terms of their lineup, which is really good. And Daniel Castano, not great numbers if you look at the peripherals, but the thing is, if he's going up in a really good matchup against the Mets, I like that. And he actually pitched well against the Mets. 7 innings pitched, 2 earns in his last start against them. But also on the other side of that, Trevor Williams, does he deserve a minus 160? Guy's bad too. His peripherals don't look as bad, but his ERA already is not good. His record's not good at 1-5. He's not been pitching well. So I think, and especially with the Mets kind of struggling a bit to score runs. I know the 8 runs against the Reds yesterday kind of combats that. But the thing is, those 5 runs came in extra innings. They had a tough time scoring against the Reds in those last 2 games, and they weren't going up against great pitching. And so I think even with that extra inning game, the Mets are going to come in here and I think be a little surprised by Miami. And Miami's been playing well as of late too. The Mets have kind of middled out. Their offense isn't hitting as well as it used to. And I think the Marlins here are actually, I hate to say playing better, but I think this is a little bit more even at the moment than the line is suggesting. I thought this was about a minus 140, minus 145. And the Mets are all the way up to, I think, a minus 165. So I think it was just a little bit too much juice for a pitcher in Trevor Williams that doesn't really deserve it.
Very fair.
You are on the Braves today as well on the run line. That's the one run line that you have. So tell me about it, because Jared and I are both interested in this game as well.
Yeah.
Cardinals pitcher is not good. Very, very bad. And the Braves have been excellent, not only at home, but they've been really good as of late. They're actually in the NL East hunt, which I didn't think I would be able to say in the beginning of July. I thought that was going to maybe happen at the end of July, August, as they're chipping away at this Mets lead. But the Braves have been excellent. Now, they're playing horrible teams. I understand that, but the Cardinals, outside of Goldschmidt and even outside of Arenado, I know he had a really good series against the Phillies, but outside of really Goldschmidt, they haven't been hitting that well. I don't think this Cardinals lineup has been that great, and it's kind of surprising because I thought that they were a solid lineup and that would be able to actually win the NL Central over the Brewers, because I don't like the Brewers lineup. It's kind of been reversed though. Brewers have been pretty good. Cardinals are struggling a bit here, but Spencer Strider's just great. I think he's an awesome pitcher, and I think he's going to mow down that lineup. Braves, again, really good at home. I actually think it's worth a run line play. It's at about even money. I think minus 108 I got, so close to even money. As long as it stays around there, I'm perfectly fine with the run line.
Fair enough. Seems like a pretty good baseball card for you today. Four bets. Orioles, Marlins,
It was tough
Padres,
because
and
there's
Braves.
a lot of juice out there. You know, the Houston and the
Yeah.
Royals. I would love to bet Houston. I would love to find ways to bet them. You know, maybe an over on the team total, but you know, it's really hard to bet some of these games because they are juiced up in a crazy, crazy way, and it's tough to bet them.
That's why I bet walk props today and in general.
Walk prop. I saw that. You're the first that I think has
Nobody-
taken a stab at the walk
yeah.
prop market. So I
am all
salute
over
to
the
you.
walk prop market. And we'll get into it a little bit later in the show. But, John, honestly, I've been betting baseball for 20 years. It's like betting the don't – and, Mark, you're the one that coined this. I love it. It is like betting the don't pass line in craps. You're rooting for balls. Yeah. Like, just constantly rooting for balls. It is a –
You're rooting for nothing ever
way
is.
to watch a game, I'll tell you that.
Nobody enjoys a walk more than Jared Lee Smith.
Right.
Home runs, those are in the past. Those are in the past.
It's not like if you're back, so you're back in the Braves today. It's not like when a guy gets up to the plate, you're going, oh, I hope he gets 4 balls. I hope he gets 4 balls. No, hit the damn ball in the ballpark. Jared is the only guy going, I hope he gets 4 balls. I hope he gets 4 balls.
This is where we're going now in sportsbook. Everybody's cheering the home runs because you have the home run props for the total. And Jared, there's a walk everybody's style except Jared Lee Smith.
Well, honestly, the big reason behind
cheering.
it. So there's 2 logical reasons behind it. And John, I'm curious your opinion. You're a very smart guy. I value your opinion. So first things, and you said it right off the top of the segment, everyone's betting strikeout props. They're juiced to high heaven. There is more action in that market. And it is already in its core an illiquid market because there's not a ton of action to begin with. And now because of the just volatility of people betting it, every capper, every prop master out there is giving out K props today. And I understand it. I was swimming in that market very heavily for a very long time, but you have to evolve. You have to adjust. Secondly, yesterday with Jose Barrios, for example, I only needed 1 walk to hit that bet. Like one at bat. It could literally be the first batter of the game. And I've hit walk props before where the first 2 batters have gotten walked. It was Charlie Morton a couple weeks ago. And that's it. Boom. Bet's done. 8 pitches in, 10 pitches in, you're done. So it has that NRFI vibe where it's a quick bet. Sometimes, obviously, you need 6 or 7 innings to get there. But there's less events, pitches that you need to go in your favor during the course of a 100 average or so pitch outing to hit that bet. And it's just, I don't know. They've resonated with me. Maybe I'm a nut job. Probably I am. But
No,
John,
it's an untapped. It is untapped, which I do like that. You know, the strikeout market. So it's become, I'd say sharp, but it's so all eyes are on that market. I even think
because a guy that has a big following puts
volatile.
out a prop and then it moves 50 cents
volatile.
and the market gets nuked. You can't touch it.
Now, how much?
Not only that, there's just too much variance.
By the way,
A lot of variance.
I mean,
and the walks have variance too. But again, when you reduce the variance by only needing over 1.5, I only need 2 events to occur throughout the course of a full, 6 inning, however many innings the starter goes. You reduce that variance, I think, by reducing the amount of things you need. And again, there's pros, there's cons to every bet you make. But I've had a good month plus of betting these, and I'm going to keep doing it.
I'll set the scene for you with Jared. He's the guy in the sports book where everybody's sitting back watching a game, chilling, and it's all quiet because it's like a slow-paced game. And then out of nowhere, someone goes, woo! Right? And everybody turns around. I was like, what the hell just
wait, what just happened? And there's no run that was scored. It was a dude
and all you see is a guy jogging down to first base like this, and Jared's like, woo!
But the thing is, those are the bettors you go, I want to know what that guy's betting on. Like, what is he doing?
100%.
Nobody else is cheering. Why is he the only one that's doing it?
There's 2 questions. There's one question to ask with 2 different answers. What is that guy on from a bet standpoint and from a drug standpoint? So either way, what is that guy on is the question.
You know what the funny thing too is, and I know you guys do this, John. I know you because you've tweeted about Game Tracker before and how you watch games, because how we watch games on Game Tracker on our phones is so unique. On the MLB app, a strikeout is coded in red while a walk is coded in green. So I used to go on my app and, I'm looking for as much red as possible. Now I want to see green. So it's like it's like a completely different mindset. It is like literally the inverse of the strikeout market. It is an interesting one to swim in every day.
I love it. So I actually do have a question about that. How do you look at umpires? Because obviously we look at strikeouts, and umpires can be really loose with their strike zone. I would have to say walks are probably even more tied to umpires than anything.
Yeah,
so
I would think so.
There's a couple of websites, one in particular, that is very good about posting the umpires for each game, their walk and their K percentages. Here's the issue. I do this show at 10 in the morning Eastern. usually the umpire assignments don't get set until much later on during the day. So it's not information that I handicap for the show, but it is information that might get me on a prop later seeing something. And I think over time it tends to balance out. And what I've noticed is the difference in umpires, like from the peak to trough of walk rates, is like 1%. Like the highest guys are like 8.5, 9. The lowest guys are like 7, 7.5. So it's not like so big of a gap where it's like it's going to get me off of a bet if an umpire is on the lower end of the walk spectrum. But if I'm looking at the umpire list at 6 o'clock before the 7 o'clock slate, and I see a guy that's like 9.5%, yeah, I might go look at that walk prop a little bit harder than I would have before if the matchup didn't favor it. So it's not that influential, but it's a tool in the tool chest for sure that gets used.
Well, make sure you guys give him a follow on Twitter at J Jansen, JANSEN 34.
Yes.
J Jansen 34. He is Jon Jansen. Thanks for the time this morning, brother. Great to have you. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Great job, bud. Tremendous stuff.
Jon Jansen. Jon Jansen and Jared Smith celebrating walk props in the sports book. Yes, there we are. While we are continuing to talk baseball here, I will tee it back up to you, Jared, for not only your walk this way parlay, but the rest of your picks from your card today.
Yeah, so it's a pretty, I'll be honest, I had trouble today. There was a lot of YRFI NRFI value popping on my board today.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny because you go away on vacation for a week after you lost some Yankees NRFIs, and the Yankees NRFIs have been hot over the last few days. That's something to keep in mind. I think they are, again, and we can get into bigger picture MLB stuff a little later on if we have time, but I think the Yankees and the Mets, frankly, are going to be very overvalued on the money line and on the run lines in the second half. I would be cautious betting those two teams because of just how good they both were in the first half, their offenses, and how much action they get on a nightly basis in addition to their success. The odds, I think, are now on the inverse side of those two teams. But I'm not betting either of those. Actually, I'm kind of betting on the Mets in an indirect way tonight. But I'll start with the NRFI YRFI card because it is thick today. Again, I saw a lot of value. And I'll start with the game that the afternoon game here, first game of a doubleheader, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. The pitching change here was intriguing. So when I looked this morning, it was Brubaker starting game one. Now it looks like Contreras, your buddy, Roensi, going up against Mike Minor. And these two guys combined 13-1 to the NRFI on the season. I got plus money on this NRFI, plus 105 over at Bet365. Is there going to be regression from 13-1 to the NRFI? Sure. But again, the price says we have to at least consider this bet. Plus 105, that implies a 48.8% chance of the bet hitting. But again, a 13-1 NRFI record. That's over 90%. So that's a big gap in what the price is and what the implied NRFI rate is. Now, the lineups are average, I'd say. Cincinnati, 34% at home. That's slightly above average. Pittsburgh, below average on the road. But the Reds are actually on a 14-game scoreless streak in the first inning. So their odds, or their rate has been dropping dramatically over the last couple of weeks. Pittsburgh, 6 consecutive scoreless first innings. So I'll take a shot. Plus 105, Pirates, Reds. Another NRFI, and again, this goes to this Braves game tonight, and I look at this matchup, and I know Liberatore hasn't been like, guns a-blazing, and the Braves do hit lefties very well, but he's still, a good NRFI record this year, and Strider on the other side has been fantastic. The two of these guys combined, 10-2 to the NRFI this season. That is a 83% NRFI rate, and I'm getting plus 116 on this bet. And when I look at the lineups, Atlanta's been average, slightly below average at home. St. Louis, slightly above average on the road. No, extreme run scoring rates for either team. The one concern I have, Paul Goldschmidt just destroys NRFIs. He almost did it last night. I was on the NRFI last night with the Braves Cardinals, and he hit a double into the gap, and luckily Arenado popped out afterwards. But Goldschmidt's a NRFI killer. I'm concerned about him, obviously, but Strider's been good, and it's the first time for both of these pitchers facing these lineups. So again, plus 116 over at FanDuel. I've got to consider that price considering these pitchers and their NRFI rates this year. And I do have the one YRFI on the card today. Anytime the Mets are at home, I need to take a strong look at their YRFI. They have the highest run scoring rate at home in the first inning this year. Over 53%. 39 home games. They've scored in 21 of them. They're facing Daniel Castano tonight, who is 4-0 to the NRFI this year. That will not continue. At some point in this young pitcher's career, he is going to give up a run in the first inning, probably on the road at some point, and that's what I'm hoping happens tonight. On the other side, I'm not very excited about the Marlins offense. They did score yesterday, but they have the 4th lowest run scoring rate on the road this season at 16%. This handicap is the Mets offense against Castano. If Trevor Williams, who's the Mets starter, gives one up today, he's been kind of average this year, maybe slightly below average, then that's great. But really, I'm probably paying too much for this, but I like getting involved with the Mets at home, and I'm laying 15 cents over at MGM. So 2 NRFIs, 1 YRFI on the card today. You see it at the bottom of the screen. Pittsburgh, Cincy, St. Louis, Atlanta on the no side, Miami, New York, National League, New York on the yes side.
1 NRFI for me, and then one more for the play of the day. But anytime I get a situation where I see a high-scoring NRFI team, a high-percentage NRFI team, going up against another high-percentage YRFI team against another high-percentage YRFI team, and I get the starting matchup that I want, I'm going to play the under just because the better value is there. And that's the case for the Cubs and the Dodgers here at -104. If you look at the Cubs and the Dodgers, Cubs number 1 team in Major League Baseball in first inning run score percentage over 40% of the time. Dodgers at 5 at just under 36% of the time. But you get Mark Leiter Jr. and Tony Gonsolin on the mound. 10-0 Tony Gonsolin on the mound here, just because of the pure
NL
price
Cy
here.
Young candidate, Tony Gonsolin.
Yes, I can fade sort of the idea that both of these offenses are going to score, and just play the starting pitching matchups over necessarily what these teams have done. And the Cubs, oh, by the way, when it comes to them scoring, they are much better at home scoring first inning runs than they are on the road. So it comes down a little bit enough for me to take the lower price there. And so that's the one NRFI that I have. My other NRFI is the play of the day, so we'll get to that coming up in a moment. I'll give my K prop out. I know you have one as well. I'm going to back Spencer Strider. And look, Jon Jansen talked about all these things with the K prop here, and how juicy this is at -152. And you look at Strider and the way he's been. First of all, he's got a higher strikeout rate on the road than he does at home, which is a little bit unnerving because the Braves are.
It's a very small sample size, though. He's only had like what?
It's a very small sample size, but still, because the Braves are at home this game. But that said, this is a St. Louis team, Jared, that strikes out, that averages nearly 2 more strikeouts on the road than they do at home. Wow. Against a high-level strikeout pitcher like Strider. That's enough for me to back him here and pay the juice as well.
So, first of all, Strider's fantastic. And they're going to – I think his first – and you might remember this. I'm just going off of, loose memory. His first strikeout prop, I think, was like 4.5 when he first debuted.
And then his second
pitch
one
count
was at like
obviously has something to do
5.5.
with it, but
Right. His second was at 5.5, and that's when he had an 11 strikeout performance, and everybody took no. Whoa!
You're not going to see a 5.5 anymore with him. Here's the follow-up I have. While the strikeout props on a start-to-start basis, let's estimate he has 10 starts left in the season, likely will be over more than under, is a better bet to make right now as a more all-encompassing strikeout prop on Spencer Strider, his National League Rookie of the Year future at 5-1. Because if he continues to go over his strikeout prop, 7, 8 strikeouts per start,
strikeouts are sexy.
You would imagine that is going to be his award to lose.
Yep, sure, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense, absolutely. Especially if the Braves are good and they end up winning coming back and winning the division. All those things factor into it. Yeah, that's a smart play. 100%.
Yeah, and and we were talking about it with John too. Alex Anthopoulos is, I would argue, maybe the best GM in baseball right now.
Most aggressive GM in baseball.
For real. And all the insiders that I talk to say if there's one team besides maybe the Brewers that have been aggressive and also correct with their late season trade deadline moves, it's the Braves. So you have to factor that into your futures price because you're 100% right. If they make a move and they win the division, all of the players on their team get boosts in the awards markets without performing even any better, just based on the fact that the team around them is better and they're going to maybe come back and win that division. So I think I would absolutely consider Strider right now for the NL MVP or the NL ROI. I think I'm going to probably make a bet. If he goes over his future, if he goes over big time tonight, like if he has like an 8 or 9 strikeout game, he might be the favorite come next week. Right now, it's O'Neal Cruz at plus 350, Michael Harris at 4-1, Mackenzie Gore, who's had a good year, and then a lot of, I would say average guys that don't pop off the page like Strider does. So I might be pulling the trigger on him to win the Rookie of the Year real soon.
Certainly worth it. You have 1K prop. Hit it and quit it.
Yeah, I'll save it. We play of the day.
Okay.
So we'll
Sorry,
do that.
Didn't realize it was there.
Yeah,
sounds good.
I mean,
walk this way.
I didn't have a ton of walk props I like today.
Okay.
The ones that I did like were not heavily juiced. So we are going to take this is a real shot. Most of the parlays have been kind of plus 250, plus 300 range. This one's a 5-1, plus 511 on this bad boy. Because again, most of them are relatively, fairly priced here. Josh Winkowski over 1.5 against the Yankees. So Josh has gone under in 3 of his first 4 starts. He's a rookie. He's a youngster. But he's had at least 1 walk in all 4. And that means we're 1 batter away at any moment from him going over. And he's facing the Yankees tonight, who have the best walk rate in baseball. And I expect a lot of playoff, grinded out at-bats, Yankees, Red Sox at Fenway Park. I don't think Winkowski's going to have an easy go of it against this Yanks lineup, which had like 22 hits last night against the Pirates. I wanted them to save a few for Fenway Park this weekend, but I like this Yankees lineup right now. Dylan Cease, anytime we get a 1.5 on Cease, we have to consider it. He is incredibly talented, great stuff, but very volatile. 81% hit rate on 1.5 this year. And Detroit, who you would think is a really shit lineup, well, all 5 starters they faced in July, right-handed starters, over 1.5. And their walk rate over the last week, over 10%. Really, really strong. So we'll take Cease over 1.5 at home against the Tigers. And finally, I was going to bet this one solo, but again, I really didn't have a third leg of the parlay I really liked. So that's when I decided to put this very reasonably priced minus 105 on Austin Gomber's over 1.5 in the parlay tonight. Arizona has a very solid lineup against lefties. Good numbers. 16 of 24 lefties have gone over 1.5 this season. And he just faced Arizona in his last start, and he walked 0. I don't think that's going to be the case tonight. Usually these things tend to even out. Gomber's been about, 1.5 to 2 for most of the season. He's hitting that right at around 40, 50%. Coming off of a really low walk game against the same lineup, I feel good Arizona will go over that tonight. So I'll give it to you one more time. All overs, all 1.5s. Winkowski, Cease, Gomber, plus 511, Mark. We're going for our 3rd straight walk this way parlay. And listen, I know this is not a great way to build your bankroll over time, but results are results. And I've got a 62% ROI on these bad boys through the first month plus. So let's keep pounding the walk props and hope they keep hitting for us.
All right. From the diamond to the court, over the pond there at the All England Club, let's look at quick Wimbledon. I have one play, but I do want you to continue with your Joker rollover here.
So I think the Joker rollover is going to be a failure, if I am being perfectly frank. And I wouldn't call it a failure, but I think just because of the competition in this tournament and the lack of some of the big names that were bounced early or COVID, Berrettini, Kilic,
Sure.
I can never pronounce his name. It looks like unless we get a really favorable price in the final, we're going to need a minus 265 or shorter in the final for the rollover to be profitable. Now, that being said, Novak still has to take care of business tomorrow morning against the Brit Cameron Norrie, and he's minus 1,600 to do so, so certainly should. But really, Mark, it's the other side of the bracket on the men's side that I'm really interested in. Nadal-Kyrgios is going to be a fantastic match. I'll get Ricky's thoughts on it, and maybe I'll tweet something out tonight. I'm sure Ricky, who's been fantastic with his picks in this tournament, will have something on that match. But props to Ons Jabeur, who just won her semifinal. Ricky had her at 9-1 to win it all. I've got a half unit to win 4.5 units, and she'll have a final against either Halep or Rybakina coming up on Saturday. You think I should hedge that bad boy? Let's say it's a pick 'em in the final. Would you hedge a plus 900?
If Halep gets through, yeah. And I think she will.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, and that's my one play. Oh, I absolutely do think she will get through. I mean, I have Simona Halep minus 4.5 games against Elena Rybakina today. And here's what's interesting about this. you look at Halep, she's minus 320 as a favorite to win the match against Rybakina, who's plus 260. When I see a number that big, and I'm going to the games, looking for the line as the number of games, I would expect she would have been laying juice as well, given she's such a heavy favorite. No, not the case. She is actually plus money on minus 4.5 games, but I think it doesn't matter. Halep is a better player. She's one of those when this tournament kicked off, she was like the second or third favorite that people would talk about. Oh yeah, don't forget about Halep. She's got a great shot to win this thing, and she does. And so, she's a very accomplished player. She's won before on the tour. As I've said repeatedly, her ground strokes are off the charts good. I like her a lot today, laying the 4.5 games at plus 106.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Rybakina has been fantastic. Ricky was on her yesterday, and I think she dropped. And that's another thing, too. I don't know if you mentioned that, but she played yesterday. I don't know if Halep played yesterday, too. Yeah, they both played yesterday. That's a tough turnaround 24 hours later. So who's in better shape certainly will play a factor there. And, yeah, I think we're going to have a really good final on Sunday. For sure on the men's side. I don't know on the women's side. Do you think Halep will be favored? Probably, right? Halep against Jabeur? Halep's probably a small favorite.
I think so, yeah. I think Halep.
Depending on how she plays today, I guess.
We'll find out. All right, let's pivot to our plays of the day. Again, Jared on our website, pickswise.com. Of course, you can also get plays of the day on the app as well. But what do we got up on the website?
It's been kind of slim pickings. Yesterday, no 3-star individuals, nothing today. There's a parlay on there. I will mention that the Scottish Open is underway. Our friend Diane Knox-Ballas does have some bets on the Scottish Open. Tough double bogey, though, for Matthew Fitzpatrick on the last hole. I'm looking at the leaderboard now. He's a little bit out of the money at this point. But Cameron Smith, who was one of Diane's other picks, is 2 under in the top 20. And also Lucas Herbert, who had a good top 10 bet under par for him today, too. And then how about this? Our buddy Maddie Schmid, who's the 130-1 long shot she gave out in the Barbasol Open, is 3 under through his first 12 holes. So we got some golf action this weekend, Mark, but no 3-stars on the site today specifically for solo bets, just some PGA.
All right, well, these are our version of 3-stars here on the plays of the day, and I will, since you spoke of golf, I will let you tee it up first.
Oh, so kind of you, sir. Listen, strikeout props have not been something that I've dabbled a ton with of late. Obviously, my focus has been in the walks market, but I'll be honest, I think I'm just going to follow this Angels team the rest of the season and bet the strikeout prop against them. How about this number? LAA, highest K rate in baseball this year, which is, 26, 27%. That's not crazy elevated. Over the last 7 days, though, their strikeout rate is 39%. Woo! Over 30% if you expand that to about 14 days to the last month or so. So still, anything over 30% is just a silly strikeout rate. All 5 starters the Angels have faced in the month of July have gone over 4.5 strikeouts, which is the number we're betting Lyles at today. 3 of those 5 starters posted double-digit strikeout numbers. 21 out of 25 starters in the month of June went over 4.5 strikeouts against the Angels. Now let's look at Lyles specifically. Well, he's coming off a 7K game against the Twins, 22 punch-outs in his last 4 starts. That includes another 7 strikeout game against a very talented but free-swinging Blue Jays lineup. He struck out Trout and Ohtani 7 times in 26 career ABs. So he has really good numbers against the heart of this Angels lineup, and we are just fading this Angels lineup at all costs in the strikeout markets because they are swing happy right now. So I'll take Lyles. Very favorable price here, laying just 6 cents over at the Westgate. Over 4.5 Ks. That seems like a very reasonable number, all things considered. And I absolutely will take a bite out of Jordan Lyles today and his strikeout prop.
Yeah, that's very favorable considering the Angels strike out the most on the road of any team per game, over 10 strikeouts per game on the road. I wish I had found that, but it might be something
their
that
K numbers are just like gaudy. And me, I haven't bet a lot of strikeout props the last couple months, but this one just jumped out of me.
I mean, normally I'd throw an insult here. You saying, how does Jared spell K-prop? Nerds. But no, you've done this is yeoman's work you've done on.
Wow,
on
he agrees. The
Yes,
insults
on
are
Jordan
going
Lyle
the
here.
other
I love it.
direction.
No, I love it.
Mark.
It's
You
well
were
done,
charged
man.
and rested after your vacation. So kind.
I might steal that and put it on the Pickswise website as my 3-star play of the day.
Yours, you can have it. I'm gifting it to you. All yours,
I'll just change the author name to Jared Smith. There we
if
go. I'll
it
put it up
wins
there
for Pickswise, it's a win for me too. So
that's right.
We're all
There we
on
go.
board.
Well, since you are feeling the groove, I will tell you a little bit here. Noticed this myself, but saw that you had it on the card, and your handicap is worthwhile and it's backing. And the fact that the juice is moved away from, it's gotten lower than when you had it earlier, tells me that we're on the right side here in a NRFI between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Atlanta Braves. You mentioned Spencer Strider. He got touched up in the first inning in his first start. Since then, he's gone 6 consecutive starts with 0 runs allowed in the first inning. Liberatore for the St. Louis Cardinals. He's a converted starter. All 5 of his starts this year, 0 runs in the first inning. Despite the fact that he's been blown up in a couple of starts, he's escaped the first inning. The only concern you have here is, as you mentioned earlier, Paul Goldschmidt going yard in the first inning or Ronald Acuna going yard in the first inning on the very first pitch that he sees from Liberatore. If you clear that, okay, and that is a big if you clear that, this is a NRFI that should follow through. At plus money, though, it's hard to walk away. You got it at plus 116. I got it at plus 108. Let's run here with the Braves and the Cardinals and a NRFI for my Pickswise play of the day. So
I love it.
Final thoughts here before we depart on this Thursday, Jared Smith.
Yeah, I think, and again, just that we have a lot of action on this Cardinals-Braves game today. The total is very high. It's a 9.5 total, and that's why you're getting good money on the NRFI.
But interesting, I looked this up, that both Liberatore and Strider both average over 5 runs of support per start. Both of them have some of the better run support in the league.
And they've had very few starts. I'll be honest, I think this is a really good under game, too. First 5, first 3. Like, these two pitchers, their numbers are pretty good.
I thought the same thing, but that's what scared me off of it was the run support. Both of these lineups, I know St. Louis is struggling, but both of these lineups are very, very competent. And with Strider, if Strider has one of those 7 innings, 1-run type games, you're giving a very short window for that over to hit, right? And that's what I was afraid. There's too much variance I couldn't eliminate from a total standpoint. But I agree with you. It's out there.
First matchup against each other, too. That's another reason why I really like the NRFI. Neither of these lineups have seen as – now, I don't know, Liberatore stuff isn't quite like Strider's, who just is a gas man. Facing Spencer Strider for the first time is not easy. Like, there's an adjustment period with him. Because
mustaches are intimidating.
That's right. Whatever floats.
Why you and I both have beards. We're less intimidating folks. Yeah. We want full facial hair. Maybe put it this way. Like, let's see. Let's make a wager here. If Spencer Strider can hit like 5 consecutive K-prop overs, I will have a Spencer Strider mustache for a show.
I would love to see that. But the real question is, what would your wife think about that? Is the better question.
I mean, let's not have that conversation. She's already creeped out by me at this point in marriage. So what else could go wrong? But we will start that bet today. We will take note here. And anybody who's following us at Pickswise can know. Starting today, if Spencer Strider hits 5 consecutive overs in his K-prop, I will bust out the mustache on the show in honor of Spencer Strider.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, well, be careful what you guys wish for. That's for darn sure. So for Jared Smith, give him a follow on Twitter at Jared Lee Smith. I'm at Mark Zinno. Of course, follow at Pickswise as well. We certainly appreciate you guys joining us here each and every day at 10 a.m. Eastern for Let's Bet It. You guys have a wonderful day. Best of luck with all your bets. Now go get it. Go bet it. We'll see you tomorrow.